at this point in time. Special welcome to those of you in TV land and in reach of my voice to this, the third in the series, Biblical Covenant, with the anointed man of God, Pastor Pedro Hall. We are the Church of God International, Spanish Town, and of course we are located at 563 Rodney Boulevard off Fort Henderson Road, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Services are held every Saturday starting at 1, and of course we do invite you to our Sabbath school lessons, which begin at 11. Of course, you can contact us at 352-3047. That's 352-3047. At this point in time, as I decrease, help me in welcoming the man of God, Pastor Pedro Hall.
And good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, those in TV land who have been following this series. We are looking, and we have been looking at the theme of biblical covenants. We are looking at the Bible from a different angle, and this is our third of the series, and we have been getting some very important points, important information when it comes to the covenant or the covenants of the Bible. We have ascertained last week and the week before that the Bible is really a book of covenant. That for you to properly understand the Bible, you will have to have a good understanding of the concept of covenant. And many of the things that persons are having issues with, if they understand the concept of covenants, then they may have, can get some of these issues resolved. Last week we looked at the covenant that Yahweh made with Abraham, and we brought out a number of points I want to review quickly before we go into today's presentation. The first point that we brought out last week is that the covenant between Yahweh and Abraham is a foundation on which all other covenants of the Bible are built. The covenant made between Yahweh and Abraham is a foundation on which all other covenants of the Bible are built. That's the first thing we saw last week. We also saw that under this covenant, Yahweh promised Abraham 7 things, and Abraham had to be faithful to Yahweh in obeying His commandments, and His commandments, to put in another light, in obeying the terms and the conditions of the covenant. I want to kind of rest your mind with the issue of commandment and law, and all to the issue of the terms and the conditions of the covenant. Walk with me very carefully now. It's a lecture, so we are going to be talking. I'm going to be talking, we'll be listening, we'll be writing. We're going to bring out some points here that are very important. Because many persons are so much against the laws and commandments, let's leave them out for a while. And let's say the terms and conditions of the covenant. We will bring out today, I'm going to show you today that the commandments are really terms and conditions that of a covenant between Yahweh and Israel. And with all the covenants, there are terms and conditions that both parties agree to agree to abide by. And these terms and conditions happen to be called laws and commandments. Right? We saw last week that the sign of the covenant between Abraham and Yahweh was circumcision. We also saw that this covenant is perpetual, means everlasting. As long as there is a generation of Abraham on earth, then this covenant is intact. That's the Abraham covenant with Yahweh. So once you have a set of people that are called Abraham's seed on earth, then this covenant continues. I want to bring out a few things as we continue. One, you're taking notes. Yahweh never entered into any form of informal relationship. You know, in Jamaica, you have your common law, wife and husband. Man and woman get together, shack up together, and do, quarterly and two-way together. Yahweh doesn't work that way. If you are going to be my friend, you're going to be together, it must be in a formal arrangement with covenant signed and sealed and agreed to. So get that straight. It does not engage in haphazard relationships. And in fact, so any relationship that Yahweh enters in with anybody, whether it's Abraham, whether it's with Israel, whether it's Isaac, it has to be a formal relationship that is binding through a covenant. Through a covenant. And both parties must seriously, both parties, Yahweh and whoever the person is, our persons are, must seriously understand the relationship, understand what are the do's and the don'ts of the relationship. There must be mutual respect between both individuals, both parties. And both parties must understand what is expected of each in the relationship. So it's not so we don't have a God who chuck up and jack up with persons. We're going to have a relationship, it has to be formal, it has to be done in a formal, structured way with a covenant signed. There must be terms and conditions that both parties must live by, both parties must show mutual respect to each other, there must be benefits to the relationship, and whenever there is any mishap in the relationship, it needs to be dealt with in a structured way. Get these things carefully. A second thing I want to bring to you today, brethren, here and those listening on TV. When Yahweh enters a relationship with an individual nation, he requires, very important now, he requires that person or persons to adopt a way of life that is different from the world. When Yahweh enters into a covenant relationship with a person or persons, nation in this sense, he expects or requires a part of the covenant, a part of the conditions of this relationship is that you will have to be a cut above the rest. That you cannot be like the rest of the world. So it means that the individual or the nation will have to understand that this is a part of the covenant. That you have to live, you have to change your way of life. Exodus chapter 19, verse 46. Look at a few texts here. Ye have seen what I did unto Egypt, speaking to Moses, to the Israelites. Oh, I bear you on eagle's wings. I brought you unto myself. Know therefore if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people. A peculiar treasure above all people. For all the earth is mine. So Yahweh is saying to Israel, all the people are mine. The Gentiles are mine, and the word Gentiles mean nations. The Gentiles are mine. You are mine. But if we will be into a relationship, a covenant relationship, you are going to be to me a peculiar people above all other. So to be peculiar above all other, it means that you will have to live in a way that is different from the rest of the world, the Gentiles. And you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. Deuteronomy 7 verse 6-8. And thou art an holy people of the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. The Lord did not set his love upon you, nor choose you because you were more in number than other people. For you are fewest of all people to Israel. But because the Lord loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your father, and the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand. So Yahweh wants to be in covenant, or those who want to be in covenant with Yahweh will have to understand the terms and conditions. You cannot be under a covenant with Yahweh and expect to walk and talk and worship the way that the Gentiles do. There must be a split, clear, distinguished difference between, even though all the world is. That what he says. And I could give you Deuteronomy chapter 14 verse 1 to 3, you are the children of the Lord your God. You shall not cut yourself nor make any baldness between your eyes. And it goes on showing the difference between you and the Gentiles, the nation of the world. Leviticus 18 verse 3, you can take that down also and read that. Titus 2 verse 14, who gave himself for us that he might redeem us from all iniquity and purify unto himself a peculiar people, zealous of good works. 1 Peter 2 verse 9, but you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, an holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who called you out of darkness into marvelous light. This is the New Testament. So there are some persons who are saying that I am under the new covenant. And if you are rightly under the new covenant, it means that you have to be a cut above the rest. You have to live in a way that is contrary to the world. Your worship must be different. Your practices must be different. When all the nations, when all Gentiles are doing one particular thing, you are doing something different. And so you should look to them in their eyes as strange, as maybe corrupt, as abnormal, as not so righty, because what? You are in a covenant relationship with Yahweh, and he doesn't want you to look like the Gentiles. So, as I've been saying over the past 2 weeks, it's impossible to be in a covenant with Yahweh and worship a certain way. And I say this, and I really want even those who are listening on TV land to understand, because I don't want to sound dogmatic, I don't want to sound harsh, I don't want to sound cursing. I don't like it. I don't want to. But if you understand what's happening in the world today, and even the Easter Christmas, let's talk about Christmas. Christmas is a day, it celebrates, let's say, Christ's birth. And the Gentiles worship or celebrate Christmas. The Gentiles celebrate Christmas. Now the true people of God who are covenant with God, who are having a covenant relationship with God, cannot be worshipped and observing Christmas. Because the nation of the world worship and celebrate Christmas. So there must be a distinct difference between God's people, Yahweh's people, and the people of the world, which is called the Gentiles. You cannot be doing the very same thing that Gentiles are doing. And the Lord shows that in all so many texts. In the scripture, you cannot do this. You should not boil the kid milk in his mother's milk, and the calf in his mother's milk. You should not cut your hair a certain way and mark it on your skin because for the dead. All these things are requirements under the covenant. And Israel, as I said before, over the past 2 weeks, for a Gentile to come into relationship with Yahweh, to become part of Israel, he must understand these terms and conditions. Leave out commandment, leave out the word, those two words, laws and commandments. They must understand the terms and the conditions of the covenant. And in understanding and agreeing to these terms and conditions, because you cannot be Abraham's seed, as I said before, and do as you want. You cannot come into Yahweh's way and continue in your own way. It's impossible. So Yahweh needs persons to change their way of life. You're going to come with me, you're going to be my people, you will have to change your way of life. You can't do what the Gentiles celebrate Easter, you cannot celebrate Easter. The Gentiles celebrate Christmas, you can't celebrate Christmas because you are different. You are royal priesthood. You are holy nation. You are different. You are set aside. You are different. You must look like Abraham. You must look like Israel. Number 3. The covenant at Sinai between Abraham and between Yahweh and Israel was done as a result of the covenant between Yahweh and Abraham. The reason why a covenant was signed at Sinai was because there was a covenant between Yahweh and Abraham. So Yahweh was just continuing that which was started. And I told you that the Abraham covenant is really the foundation on which all of the covenants are made. It's because Yahweh had promised Abraham to bless him and bless his seed and to make of him many nations, starting with Israel, that he had to sign this covenant. So there's a continuation of that which was done with Abraham. Alright, so with those cemented in your brain, let us look now at the covenant between Israel and Yahweh. Let me bring us some things that are important as we study scriptures. The details of the covenant are found in Exodus 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. In chapter 19, the initial invitation to Israel was entered into. Initial invitation to Israel to enter into relationship with Yahweh was given. Verse 1. In the 3rd month after the Israelites left the land of Egypt, the same day they came unto the wilderness of Sinai. And when they departed from Rephidim and had come to the wilderness of Sinai. They encamped before the mountain, and Moses went up to God. So what's the story now of the covenant? He went to God, and Moses went to God, and the Lord called him and said, you have seen, said to the people of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings, etc., etc. Now therefore, look at the invitation now. Now therefore, if you will obey my voice in truth and keep my covenant, then you will be my peculiar possession and treasure among and above all peoples. For all the earth is mine, and you will be to me a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. This is the same thing that the Lord said to Abraham. These are the words you should speak to the Israelites. And so Moses went down the mountain, and you can read the first step. He went and he called the elders of Israel and said, the Lord said, if you obey my voice, if you do this and this and that, I can be your God and you will be my people. Notice, you'll see when you read these texts that the Lord set in order or in the covenant are some terms and conditions that would set Israel apart from the other nations. All that the Lord would have given to Israel in the terms and conditions would have been things that no other nation on earth would do or would have been doing. Understand carefully now. So the Israel law and the commandments are really way of life. The commandments, David said, are good, they are pure. They are sweeter than honey and the honeycomb. What he's saying, brethren, is that the way of life that Yahweh stipulates for his people is good. It's pleasant. It makes you different. It makes you wise. It makes you special. You are different from the Gentiles. And he said to them, and they agreed. They agreed on the terms. You cannot come to God, you cannot come to Yahweh, brethren, if you do not intend on abiding or adhering to the terms and the conditions of the covenant. When a man and woman sign a covenant to be married, there are terms that they have to abide by, and they sign the paper, and it shows that yes, we agree, for better for worse, this and health, in good and bad. So there are terms and conditions. The people said, yes, we will abide. We will abide. And Moses went to God and said, God, they said they will abide. They will abide. And then now in chapter 20 to 23, we see the terms and conditions of the covenant being outlined. Because seeing that you plan to abide, seeing that you said you agree on these terms and conditions, let me now outline them to you. And including the terms and conditions, 1, the 10 Commandments, 2, instructions written in what we call the Book of the Covenant, which is a serious book we need to look at also. The Book of the Covenant. And there were other laws given. So when you read the whole of chapter 20 to 23, where we tend to read now, you really, when you get home, you see the terms and conditions list out. How do you treat the servants? How do we deal with justice? If a man accidentally kills somebody, how do we deal with that? All of these terms and conditions. The people have said, yes, we will. And in chapter 24 now, we have the ratification of the covenant. You read verse 7. Verse 1, and God said to Moses, come up to the Lord. And he said, tell the people to get themselves ready. They got themselves ready for the sign of the covenant. Got themselves ready, they went, and they were announced And when they agreed to it, brethren, what happened is that Moses got the blood. Look at it. Keep it going down to verse. But verse 6. And Moses took half of the blood and put it in the basin. And half of the blood he dashed against the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read in the hearing of the people. Now, in the book of the covenant are the terms and conditions of the covenant. And so Moses read to the people the terms and conditions of the covenant, which are contained in the book of the covenant. And he read in the people's hearing, and they said, all that the Lord has said we will do, and we will be obedient. And Moses took the blood, and he sprinkled it on the people, and he said, behold the blood of the covenant, which the Lord hath made with you, in accordance with all these words that are written in the book of the covenant. So what we call the law and the commandments, brethren, what we call the law and the commandments are really the terms and conditions of the covenant. So let's talk about the term law and the term commandment, since people don't like to hear it. Now, in the book of the covenant, I want to identify some things in the book of the covenant. The law concerning servants, Exodus 21, verse 2 to 11. The law governing social justice, Exodus 21, verse 12 to 23, verse 9. The Sabbath laws and the annual feast days. And then you see other terms and conditions going out in Exodus, in Deuteronomy, and those parts. I want us to get this clear now. The terms and conditions are written in the book of the covenant. Moses sprinkled that book with blood. The people sprinkled blood also to ratify the covenant. So the people agreed that all of it that Yahweh says they should do other people to separate them from the other people of the world. They will do. So it means, brother, that if you are part of the new covenant, if the terms and conditions of the new covenant are the same as those of the old covenant, and we'll see that we'll look at that next week. It means that everything that is written in the book of the covenant, those who are on the new covenant must abide or adhere to. You cannot choose to do anything else other than what is written in the book of the covenant. Years after, in 2 Kings 22, verse 8 to 13, when Joshua was king, Josiah was king, when Israel had gone against the covenant, Israel broken the covenant for years. Somebody found the book of the covenant in the temple. The book was stashed somewhere in some pile of garbage or somewhere in pile 13. And somebody found the book, and when they read from the book of the covenant, you see it in 2 Kings 22, 8 to 13, the people were so amazed as to how is it that we have signed a covenant with Yahweh to do these things that are in the book of covenant, but yes, we are doing it. And we see where the king said, let us begin at once to abide by these terms and conditions. We see it in 2 Kings chapter 23, verse 2 to 3. The king went up to the house of the Lord, and with him all the men of Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests, the prophets, and all the people, both small and great. And he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant, which was found in the Lord's house. And the king stood by the pillar and made a covenant before the Lord to walk unto the Lord and to keep his commandment, his testimony, his statutes, and all with all his heart and soul, and confirm the word of the covenant that were written in this book. And all the people stood to join in the covenant. So we need to understand then what are the conditions of the covenant. The covenant. Including in the covenant, brethren, is the issue of the provisions. Provision. Blessing and cursing. We see that in Deuteronomy chapter 28 to 29. Leviticus 24. There are blessing and covenant. For all covenant, there must be some mutual benefit for both parties in the covenant. If I'm going to something with you, I must get something and you must get something. So there must be some mutual benefit. The obligations of the covenant now is found in Exodus 19 verse 5 to 6. The obligation, brethren, are that you must walk according to the stipulations of Yahweh. You must. And so let me clear up now a misconception that has been taught by Christendom. This is one thing we're going to clear up today. The covenant made at Sinai, which is called the Old Covenant, is not the Old Testament. Because there are people who are saying that because we are no longer under the Old Covenant, we are going to throw away the Old Testament. The covenant that Yahweh made with Israel at Sinai is not the Old Testament. It is not. But instead, the Old Covenant was an agreement in which Israel was to obey that which was stated in the Old Testament. Let's go again. The Old Testament is not the Old Covenant. The Old Testament is what the people of Israel agreed to under the Old Covenant. So the Torah, the laws, the instructions that are found in the Torah, these are what the people agreed to under the Old Covenant, and they are not the Old Covenant themselves. And many persons say that these are the Old Covenant. And so we are now, because we are now on a new covenant, we throw away the Old Testament, and we are now in the New Testament. Better yet, the New Testament is not the New Covenant either. The New Testament is not the New Covenant. In fact, the New Testament are merely apostolic writings. So they are Gospels and apostolic writings. That is all the New Testament contains. So the New Covenant, really, apart from Hebrew in the New Testament, the New Covenant is stated in the Old Testament. So if you throw away the Old Testament, you are throwing away the covenant. Remember, brethren, I said this last week. Let me repeat it again. Yahweh made only one covenant with only one nation on this earth. He has not made another covenant with any other nation. And he will not make another covenant with any other nation. Only one nation on this earth had a covenant with Yahweh, no other nation. It means that if you want to be a part of this covenant with Yahweh, you will have to be a part of that nation. And that nation is called Israel. The new covenant, we'll look at it next week, the new covenant was not made with any other nation, but with the same one nation called Israel. The new covenant, brethren and friends, will be made with Israel only. There is no other nation. Yahweh cannot have two covenants. He can't have two persons. He cannot afford to have two wives. It's one woman, one wife. And so for you to be Yahweh's wife, you have to go into Israel, become a part of Israel. So no Gentile nation. I said before, Gentile mean nation, other nations have had any agreement with Yahweh. You see it in ancient Israel, for someone to be a part of the covenant, they have to become Israelite. The New Testament, the New Covenant is similar. You will see it next week, you'll see it in Jeremiah, you'll see it in Ezekiel, that the Lord will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and Judah, the same Israel, with nobody else. So you cannot be a part of the covenant of Yahweh. You cannot be Israel when your way of life, your way of worship, your way of thinking is not that of Yahweh. You have to come into it. Come into this new thing. And this new thing is the same old thing. You see next week and that the new covenant, the new covenant is really the problem why there was a new covenant was the people, the forefathers. The conditions and terms were still there. Have not changed. And what we'll see that change next week, we'll see it. That those instructions concerning, that the Yahweh gave concerning how you deal with sin, would have been removed from the covenant, removed. But we'll get there next week. Deuteronomy 28 verse 1-2. If you will listen diligently to the word of the Lord your God, being watchful to do all his commandments, which I command you this day, the Lord your God will set you above all nations of the earth, and all these blessings shall come upon you, and overtake you, and you will hear the voice of the Lord your God. Verse 15. But if you will not obey the voice of the Lord your God, being watchful to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command you this day, then all these curses shall come upon you. So there are provisions under the covenant. Blessing if you do what you do, cursing if you don't do. No. The reason why you keep the laws and the commandments is not because you want to be saved. It is because you are under a covenant with Yahweh. And these laws and commandments are the terms and the conditions. That's the only reason why you keep the laws and the virgin. You're required to keep the commandments, the feast day, the Sabbath. It's because you are in a covenant with Yahweh. And the terms say you must keep the feast days. Look in the book of the covenant. Exodus 20, 22, 23. You see it there? This I say to you, and I said again, I keep on saying, because what is happening in our world now, and the teacher said it earlier in Sabbath school, that there are no man who married man. And then we are ordaining bishops and all these, and priests and all these things. When one of the terms and conditions of the covenant is that the only set of people who should not have man marry man are Israel. The pagans can do that. The pagans can marry each other as man and man. The pagans can ordain homosexual bishops and all these things, so leave them alone. But once you are Israel, you cannot, because a term and condition said you should not. And if you are homosexual and you want to be a part of the covenant of Yahweh, the new covenant, you need to understand the terms and the conditions and agree to it, or do not come this way. So as a church, we don't need to tell the world that they must not legalize homosexuality. Let them do it. Let them do it. They are Gentiles. They are Gentiles. They can. You are concerned with keeping, abiding, adhering to the terms and conditions of the covenant. And if any of you inside here choose to become homosexual or what you call it, you will have to leave the covenant relationship because you become Gentile. So it's not all the way I say don't have a man or have a woman or have a dog or a cow. You cannot, but not in the covenant. Not only this covenant, because you are called to be different from the world. A different something, this is a different thing. So I am not preaching to you and saying you must keep the law of God and commandment. Don't keep the law of commandment. Don't keep it. Just abide by the terms and the conditions of the covenant. You should know them, so you can find them in the Bible and you know them. So don't keep laws, don't keep commandments, they are not good. But find the terms and conditions of the covenant and abide by them. The covenant between Yahweh and Israel had a sign. There was a sign. I said to us in the past 2 weeks that that covenant come with a sign. And the sign that comes between Yahweh and Israel is the Sabbath. Exodus 31, 16, 17, therefore the Israelites shall keep the Sabbath to observe it throughout their generations, a perpetual covenant. It is a sign between me and the Israelites forever, for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the 7th day he ceased and refreshed. No, I'm not saying to you, keep Sabbath. I am saying to you that the sign of the covenant that you say you are under is that you keep the Sabbath. So don't keep it in the Sabbath law, but keep the sign. Because it's when you have the sign, just like when a man marries a woman and they ring, 2 rings, and then they say it's a symbol of love. So when you see the ring, you know, say, well, you're married to this person. The Sabbath, law says, when you keep the Sabbath, it shows that you and I have a covenant together. It's a covenant. So drop Sabbath if you want to drop it. But you have to keep it because the covenant is a covenant. So, and you take it, so let me say, we have 2 days of Sabbath then. But note carefully, brethren, that the sign Sabbath did not make null and void the circumcision, the sign of the Abraham covenant. So, the Abrahamic covenant sign continues. Because Israel have to continue to circumcise the flesh of this foreskin. And as long as Abraham covenant is in force, the promise, the obligation, the signs are still in force. Nothing changed. Nothing changes. So very important to the issue is that. And I think, brethren, what happened is that we have been preaching the issue of the law and the covenant from a wrong point of view, a wrong angle. When you bring out the issue of the covenant when you show people understand what the covenant is about, and the terms of the covenant, because one, you can't have any covenant on earth without a terms and conditions. There are no covenant on the face of the earth that does not contain terms and conditions. You go to courts to take out a fridge and a purchase, and the terms and conditions are there, and you are asked to read and you sign them. And courts take a stamp and stamp it. It is sealed and signed. If you don't pay back it, they can come and repossess the fridge. The condition is the covenant. You pay monthly, you pay X amount monthly. If you don't pay it on time, you pay an interest charge, and you pay this, and you pay that, and then there's the daily fee. And all these are the terms of the covenant. So it is with Yahweh and his people. There are terms and conditions, and you must abide by it in order to continue to be under the covenant. Otherwise, then you can go with the business. When you bring out this thing, in this way, person will better understand the issue of keeping the law and keeping the commandments. Now, Christendom teaches that you no longer need to keep the law and your commandments. What they are saying to you, or saying to us, is this: you are under a bogus covenant with Yahweh. Any church that teaches that the law and the commandments are cut out, just believe in Jesus Christ, baptize, and live good, which everybody do that. The Muslim live good, isn't that so? In fact, the Muslim live better enough as people under covenant. The Muslim know something that we do to each other. The Muslim they don't do that. They are morally upright. And that's what Jesus said to them. But listen, if you give your friend something, the hypocrites do it too. So what difference between you and the hypocrite? No, it's more than thing. So give to those who won't give. So if there's any church in Christendom that teaches that you don't keep the laws and the commandment, you don't keep stuff anymore, there's no need to keep the feast days and all these things. They are saying to us that there is a covenant that they are under with God that is basically bogus, because there are no terms to abide by. It's a room for rent, apply within, you run out, then I run in. So every man have them own way, how they want to live how they want to live, marry to who they want to marry to, walk who they want to walk, dress how they want to dress, go naked as they like, do this when jump in and jump out and have fun, because the laws are cut out. If you, brethren and friends, and those in radio land and TV land listening to us, if you intend at all to be under a new covenant, there must be some terms and conditions that you are going to have to abide by. You will have to be separate, you have to be different from all the other nations of the earth. You must look different, you must walk different, your action must be different, your behavior must be different, your way of life must be different. And that is why you are doing some things that the others don't do. So if you have been pressured with this new way of life, take your time. Don't rush it. You agreed to the covenant. So take time to save for the feast. You agreed to the covenant. So you can't just go and have sex as you like. And you agreed to it. Listen, you say if you want to have sex as you like, just come out to the covenant and go on with business. But once you're going to be under a covenant, this is a serious business, brethren. If you're going to be in a covenant with Yahweh, a relationship with Yahweh, you will have to understand that there are changes that you will have to make. Israel, when Israel left Egypt, Israel was worshipping other gods. And we saw it very early after they left. Moses went up to the mountain for a few days and they make a golden calf. Yahweh said, no. If you will be my people, you cannot worship a golden calf. The nation does that. The Gentiles do that. You can't do it. So all those stipulations. You want to eat pork? You want to eat your shrimps and your crab? Go eat it, but you cannot eat it when you're under a covenant with Yahweh. So it's not a stress in stretching you out, it's that you have agreed to the terms and conditions. And guess what? The Lord did not pull Israel in it. He went and he invited them and they said yes. They agreed to the terms and conditions. And they said so they have to live by it. Nobody is being pushed or being pulled to come to Yahweh under these conditions, under this covenant. It is something that you agreed to. Let me reiterate, brethren. Let me reiterate, friends and TV land, you have been following us for the past 2 weeks. Third week now. Yahweh had made a covenant with Abraham. It's the same covenant he made with Israel. The covenant has not changed. He promised to make a set of people into a kingdom of priests, a kingdom of kings, a kingdom of blessed people with promises and all these things. But there are some criteria that you have to follow to adhere to, some terms and conditions that you have to adhere to. Do you want to be a kingdom of priests? Yes or no? If your answer is yes, you need to adhere to the terms and conditions. If the answer is no, you don't need to adhere to the terms and conditions. You can do as you like. So my friends, it's important you understand this. So we're not being called, we're not pushing anyone to keep the law and the commandments. You're not being pushed to do that. And we're not saying either that the law and the commandment will save you, because that was not the original reason for the law and commandment. The original reason for the law and the commandment was to separate you from the rest of the world. To make you different, because once you are my bununos people, you cannot look like the world. That's all I'm saying. So nobody is forcing you to keep the commandment. We are saying to you, the commandments cannot save us, the law cannot save us. That was never the original purpose of the law and the commandment. The original purpose of the law and the commandment is to separate you from the rest of the world. So when the rest of the world can live with his mother's husband or his father's wife, you are not to, because you are different. When you work and eat the jerk pork, when you have Portland Jerk Festival, and eat the jerk shrimps, and eat the jerk oyster, and jerk rabbit, and jerk whatever, you cannot, because what? You should not, because what? You have come under a covenant with the Lord. Nobody pulled you into it. You went into it by yourself. You agreed to it. And this is why we can't just baptize people in church like this, in this church. People need to understand what are the requirements of the conditions of the covenant. The requirements need to be told. Don't tell people say, you go to hell if you don't it. Tell people, if you plan, the Lord wants to make you into a nation of priests, a peculiar nation, a special people, but there are some things that you need to adhere to, and these are called the terms and conditions. You can find them in the book of the covenant, Exodus chapter 21, 22, 23. Go to Deuteronomy chapter, I think it's 27, 28, 29. Look at them, examine them carefully. You can either choose to be a kingdom of priests and all that, or choose to do one thing. When you have made a decision as to what you do, Then you tell us. The law doesn't save. In fact, the law cannot save anybody. The law will never save anybody. I want this to go in the cranium of our people in TV land. I'm going to repeat myself. The law and the commandments were never in the beginning set down to save anybody. They were set down to separate the covenant people from the rest of the people of the world. I want to get that in. I want you share that with your friends and family. Why was the law given? And the commandments? To separate the covenant people from the people of the world. That's all. And once you agree to that, then you are now the people of God. You are now in a covenant relationship. You are not in a Jacob relationship. You are in a covenant relationship, and you are expected to live accordingly because you are bride of the biggest person ever lived. And we can't have my wife, Yahweh say, do it like everybody else. You must be different. Now, let's analyze the covenant now. One, if the covenant with Abraham is considered a covenant of promise, it means that the covenant at Sinai can be considered a covenant that begins the fulfillment of the promise. So that's all. Let's go again. If the covenant with Abraham is considered to be a covenant of promise, and we see here Paul said to the Gentile Christians, no longer Gentiles, the Israelites. Because once you are now under the covenant, you are no longer Gentile, you are now Israelite. And so I don't use the word Christian. I said Israelite. So guess what? There's only one nation that Yahweh will make a covenant with, and it's Israel. So there can be nothing but Israelite. You are Israel. You are Israel. And Paul said, you are the covenant, and you are the promises, you are the glory, you have it. So if Abraham's covenant is seen as a covenant of promises, and still it is the foundation covenant of all the covenants in the Bible, it means that the Sinai covenant can be considered as a covenant that begins the fulfillment of these promises. It's not gone away, it's still that. And you see in Leviticus 26, verse 41, for another part of the Bible, whenever the Sinai covenant is broken, Yahweh used the Abrahamic covenant as a safety net. So when Israel fooled himself, Yahweh said, because my servant Abraham. Why? I'm still in this. Abraham, so the Abraham covenant is a safety net, like a safety net for whenever the Sinai covenant is broken. And I said to you, I said to us, I'm some trouble, and I repeat myself, that the Lord did not say you must keep atonement just because you want you to fast for 24 hours. Sister March, Miller. If not, the Lord is wicked when I want to, he said keep atonement. It's not because he's wicked. It's because for every covenant that there is, whenever covenant is broken, the only way it can be restored is if there is an atonement made to restore the covenant. To restore a broken covenant, an atonement has to be made. And that is why every year make an atonement, and the atonement. To restore the covenant that they have with Yahweh. And so if you are under the new covenant, brethren, and you are not keeping atonement, then you are not under Yahweh's covenant, because you sin. Every time you go against the terms and conditions of the covenant, you sin. You become an infidel. Infidelity pops in there because you break the covenant. And so, when we gather for atonement, we are really restoring the covenant we have with Yahweh. If you're not doing atonement, you don't have a covenant with Yahweh. So these are not any burdensome thing that you're being pushed and forced to do. These are the covenant between Yahweh and Israel is the biggest, the most structured, the most important covenant there is on earth and in heaven. It is so structured that all the points, the provisions, the parties are in place, the terms and conditions are there. What you should do in case the covenant is broken. And this is why the whole law of the Levitical system came in place, to deal with sin. Because Yahweh knows that these people will break the covenant. And so, in order to deal with the restoration of the covenant, the system is set in place. And so, next week when we look at the new covenant now, we'll see where this system is no longer needed, because sin is dealt with under the new covenant in a different way. And so those who are saying that you must keep the feast day with sacrifice does not have a ground on which they stand. Because this system came in place later on to deal with sin, to deal with the breaking of the covenant. Let's take this other point now. The Torah does not justify a person because the Torah is contingent upon obedience. When the Sinai covenant is broken, the covenant with Abraham acts as a safety net under it, and that is a covenant of faith. A covenant of faith. What is faith? What is faith? What is faith? How can a man be faithful to his wife? In what way? Adhere to what? The terms and the condition of the covenant, the word covenant. What is faith? How can a man or woman be faithful to Yahweh in the covenant that they have with Yahweh? But adhering to the terms and the condition of the covenant, nothing else. So faith is not just believe. And that's why he said that Abraham believed and was accounted as righteousness for him. Because what? He did exactly what Yahweh stipulated under the terms and condition of the covenant. As simple as that. But it's faith. If you don't know what faith is, brethren. Being faithful to Yahweh means that you are not going to go opposite to what is outlined under the terms and conditions of the covenant. That's only faith. That's being faithful. Being saved, no different argument. And so, the just shall what? Live by being faithful to the terms and conditions of the covenant. That's all you have to do. Be faithful to it. Don't go. Because, brethren, once you start to do some other things. So when you start to like celebrate Christmas, Easter, and all these things, you are now, because these are not in the terms of the condition and condition of the covenant, you are now gone out and have become unfaithful. Watch carefully. When you do certain things, celebrate certain holidays that are not stipulated under the terms and conditions of the covenant, you are become unfaithful to Yahweh. And to become faithful, there is atonement and there is a change of way. You cannot come to Yahweh and continue to live the way you want to live. It is called hypocrisy. Galatians 3 verse 11. Now it is evident that no person is justified through the law, for the scripture says, the man in right standing with God shall live by and without faith, and he who through and by faith is declared righteous and in right standing with God shall live. But the law does not rest on faith, for it itself says, he who does them shall live by them. So we want to get this clear. We want to get this very clear. And this is where the people seem to be making things look bad when it comes to the law and the commandments. The law and the commandments. They are basically the conditions that you live by. And that does not save you, because the fact that you are first called. You are called, so you are saved. That's one. You are called, you come, you're saved. Know you come, know you're saved, you're going to go walk according to the law, the terms and conditions. That's all. Now, it is this covenant that is called the Old Covenant, and it is replaced by the New Covenant that we are going to look at next week. But this Sinai covenant, or the covenant between Yahweh and Israel, is the covenant that is now called the Old Covenant. The Old Covenant. Now get these facts before I close. You could consider this. The New Covenant may be considered a renewed covenant and not really a new covenant in a sense. Why? It is the same people that it will meet, same nation. The terms and conditions are the same. The parties are the same. What do we know about the New Covenant? Consider it. The parts are the same, the terms and conditions are the same, well, unless there are other terms that I don't know. But when I look at Ezekiel and Jeremiah, where Yahweh gave detail about New Covenant, he said, I will put my laws in their heart, the same law, the same term and condition in their heart. So, the same generation of people, Israel. The sign will be different, but that does not make the other sign null and void. The circumcision sign still will be there. The Sabbath sign will be there same, because all the covenants that are in the scripture are built upon the Abrahamic covenant, and they are intergenerational, they are binding, they continue to the end. As long as there is a generation of people that are called Abraham's seed, the covenant. So think about it. The covenant, the new covenant, may be called a renewed covenant. Because when you look at all the terms and all the principles of the covenant, they are the same. Or they will be the same. If it is another covenant, then Yahweh would have been unfaithful to the first nation. You couldn't marry two ladies. Has to be one. It is another covenant. So the same covenant being renewed because what? One party became unfaithful, gone out of business, and Yahweh now bring her back to him. So it's a renewal of the covenant. A renewal of the covenant. So next week we're going to look at the parties. What are the parties of the covenant? We're going to look at the differences between the two covenants, the old covenant and the new covenant. We're going to look at what exactly caused Yahweh to do this new covenant. Look at this carefully. I want to think about it. What is new about the new covenant? And what do we know about the new covenant? Let's look at it next week. But think about it from now. What will be new about the new covenant? It's only one new thing, you know. What is it? The only new thing about the covenant is really the way our sin is dealt with under this new under the covenant. That's the only new thing. Our sin is dealt with. Because the nation remain the same. The other part remain the same, Yahweh. Israel remain the same. It remain the same that anybody who wants to enter this new covenant will have to come into this nation. So there's not another nation that can remain, but the same old nation. And the same parties, the same terms and conditions are set up in the same covenant. The same promises will be under the same covenant. The same provisions are there, the blessing and the cursing are there. The only difference is what is used to ratify the covenant, the blood of Jesus. So we look at that next week. We also will look at how Gentiles will become a part of this covenant. So fourth thing we look at next week. Which are the two parties in the covenant, in this new covenant or renewed covenant? What are the differences between the old and the new covenant? What exactly caused Yahweh to renew this covenant? And how Gentiles become a part of this covenant? I guess you all know this, right? But we'll look at it anyhow. In case we don't, we have forgotten. And those persons who listen to us on TV, in those areas, I want you to think about these things. I want you to think about this series. It's very important. You have to move from a level of just accepting what people say to a level of reading and understanding for yourself what exactly the scripture says. There is no Old Testament and New Testament as you call the Bible. The Bible is one book of covenants. All the stories in the Bible It's about covenant, nothing else. It's a covenant book. All the stories are covenant book. And in that book contains the covenant that you say you're under. If you are not going according to the terms and conditions, my friends, of the covenant, and in case you don't believe that the same terms and conditions exist for the new covenant, we'll see that next week. Just watch us next week. And you'll see this, we'll show you that the same, that is nothing different with the terms and conditions of the new covenant. There's no difference in the parties, there's no difference in the promises, there's no difference in the provisions, but there's a difference in what is used to ratify the covenant. The only difference. May God bless you. God keep you. Thank you.